lot of stuff going on with Star Wars, of course, because it's there's one coming out in 2-3 months, whatever.
Just
months.
one?
There's
7?
one. We know they're going to be coming out for a while there, but they basically they made an announcement. I don't know if these count as announcements. Somebody will say something in an interview, and everyone's like, "It's the gospel truth," and then you're like, "Oh, well, they cut that part out or whatever." Right. Big news is that apparently after The Last Jedi, we still won't really know who Supreme Commander Snoke is. Supreme Leader? I keep calling Commander.
Supreme Leader,
Supreme Leader Snoke. So there's a bunch of questions we're going to have that we're probably still going to have after Episode 8, and that's kind of the point. There's a lot of mysteries and intrigue kind of tangled up, and that's what was really fun about Force Awakens. I think it's really easy to kind of come out of that and just be like, oh, that was a lot of familiar themes that we've seen before, and I don't think a perfect movie exists, but to be able to enjoy that level of like confusion going into it, and then the second the opening crawl rolls and it's like Luke Skywalker is missing, and we're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
We didn't know that. That was a total surprise to us. And then we're gonna get a bunch more stuff like that going into Last Jedi.
I really hope so, because I feel like with spoiler culture and the sort of like over explanation that happens around everything nowadays, like we kind of lose a lot of the magic and mystery when it comes to these things. Like, I don't know, when I watched the original Star Wars trilogy, I wasn't really like, who's Obi-Wan's dad? I literally never asked myself that question until like right this second.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I don't care who his dad and mom were, but like in Star Wars now, like everyone has to know everyone's family member, everyone's allegiance. Like maybe just a bad guy just shows up, like Count Dooku just showed up, right?
Pretty much.
Like we didn't really, you'd have to read his backstories and books and all that.
That's the other thing that's worth noting is when Lucas was making these, he had some bullet points in his head, he had some ideas for stuff, but they weren't planning too far ahead. And there's some stuff you can point to where like either he had his own private notebook that nobody could see, and there were things that were going to happen. But there's other stuff where I just don't think he planned that much ahead. You don't introduce a character like Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back and set him up like he's going to do something, and then throw him into a pit if you'd planned that far ahead. If they were, I mean, in the case of like Mace Windu, for instance, he's got a purple lightsaber. That was his whole jam. But the first Mace Windu action figure they put out for Episode 1 had a blue lightsaber. And then like in Jedi Power Battles, which was an official game and everything, I think Plo Koon had an orange lightsaber, and then Episode 2 rolls out and there's only 3 colors for him. So a lot of weird stuff to kind of consider with the older stuff. They weren't really planning that far ahead. Lucas had his ideas, but in the case of Disney, like they have a story group. They are thinking probably decades in the future.
Yeah, they're mapping it all out. And what we do know from like the leaked toy shots and official toy shots is that Snoke is like, I don't know, 8 feet tall, and he's
like
wears
7 or 8,
7 or 8 feet tall. He wears like this gold like Ric Flair robe, and he drives around this giant ship that looks like a Tostito.
Yeah. What's weird though is I remember there was an interview with Andy Serkis for The Force Awakens where he was like, yeah, I play like a really big character. He's called Snoke, and we're like, who is Snoke? And then we see him in the movie, and first of all, he just shows up, and you're like, whoa. First of all, he's huge, but he's also a hologram. So what's that going to be like? And going into this, I mean, we've seen the toy. We know that he's about 7 or 8 feet tall, which is still a big dude. He's going to be imposing, but it's also like, I don't know, is that it? Is this like a largish man? It's kind of odd. Like,
He's got that weird ring.
He could have also been like 2 feet tall. He could have been like an evil Yoda. So yeah, we don't know who Snoke is. We're probably still not going to know who Snoke is after Episode 8, but
that's okay.
It's fun to speculate.
Yeah.
Now, next question, other huge one. Who the hell is Rey? We don't know who she is. We still don't know who she is, and maybe we'll get some insight to that in Episode 8, but like, it's really cool to be like going into a movie and be like, oh, that's right. We don't know where she came from. We got like a bunch of weird flashbacks. We know that she's going to do some lightsaber stuff.
Yeah, we don't know if she was in like Jedi junior school with Kylo Ren, and then he started this school gang called the Knights of Ren, and they turned on everybody and killed everybody. We don't know. We don't know her origin. I hope like, if they stay away from her being a sort of like Skywalker child. They said specifically that her parents were not in 7.
Right. That is the thing they've said, but then they've also, I don't know.
They've also reneged on that, like, quietly.
That was also, like, J.J. Abrams. He's known to kind of occasionally lie about stuff just to keep the mystery going. Then, of course, there's the Knights of Ren. We saw them in not only the trailer for Force Awakens, but also in a flashback in Force Awakens. And I thought, like, getting a glimmer of them in the trailer meant that we were going to see them actually doing stuff.
Yeah, all we saw in the trailer was what we saw in the film,
right.
Really.
And
which bums me out because like I love these guys. I love like their weird. I mean, I remember like digging through, like zooming in on pictures like this and being like, "Is that Mandalorian armor? Like, does that guy have like chainmail? Like,
and there's like
what the hell? Like, what's he holding?
Like concept art of them. But yeah, like we don't know if that's a flashback or a vision. We don't know if the Knights of Ren are dead. Like, we don't really know what's going on with them. Like,
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's lots of speculation and probably a nod here and there in the fiction that we should probably catch up on reading.
I
But,
remember
like,
reading like a sort of like behind Star Wars or one of those like making of Star Wars type of things where somebody said there will be a scene in the new movie where Luke Skywalker fights them, which I'm like totally into because we haven't really seen him fight anybody of significance, or at least in like a group setting, in a very, very long time.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. One thing it's worth asking about is, where's his lightsaber? Because obviously there's the blue one that Rey finds. He's like, hey, is this yours? And he's like, get off my island. I'm here with my weird birds. But his like iconic green one that he makes himself, I don't know what's up with that, you know?
We see it at the end of Jedi. It's my favorite one of his by far. It's really cool.
Yeah, he doesn't throw it away. It doesn't get like left at the bottom of the Death Star or anything.
Or tossed into space, right?
But if you look at all the photos that we've seen of Luke in Episode 7 and 8, he doesn't have a saber on him. And his action figure doesn't come with one, which is kind of an odd. Like, I mean, we got a Rey figure with Episode 7 that did come with a lightsaber, which was a huge spoiler for a lot of people. But yeah, I don't know. Like,
and then there were a couple that shipped without them that just came with their blaster that Han Solo gives her. So it's weird, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really hope that one shows up. It'd be
one.
really funny if the movie starts with that shot of Rey handing him a lightsaber, and he's like, "Oh no, it's cool. I got one already."
Yeah. What if he redoes that trick from Jedi where R2 like pukes the thing up, but it's one of the porgs is just like this lightsaber comes out. I don't think that's a good idea, but it would still be pretty funny.
What else we got, Max?
Finally, what's up with Finn? Like, we know that he got picked up by the New Order, or the First Order. I keep doing this. I keep just left and right. But yeah, like, we know that the First Order was basically grabbing orphans and training them to be soldiers, but apparently not doing a great job because we went up with deserters like Finn who run off to join the Resistance. So, are his parents dead? Is he a clone? Does he have issues about that? I imagine he might. What's he doing in that space costume?
I'm okay with this one not being answered.
I don't think they need to go into it too hard.
He is an orphan, like just every other stormtrooper was sort of kidnapped when they were babies and then forced into this thing. Although they did, I remember them reading that like if the orphan thing doesn't work out, they can always go back to clones, which is odd how they just stopped using clones. I hated all that stormtrooper.
Yeah, it's weird. Now, one thing we've seen in Rogue One, they introduced the idea of a more kind of complex layering of the good and evil. The fact that you had what's his name? With the boogly. Borgullet. Forrest Whitaker or whatever.
Yeah.
The guy they go see, he's like the far crazy, overly rebellious rebel, and they're like, he's a terrorist, we don't want to work with him, but please join the rebellion. We're also not bad guys. But then you see like Diego Luna like killing a guy in an alleyway, and you're like, oh, so just joining the rebellion isn't necessarily like the good guys.
Yeah.
And I think in the case of the new trilogy, you've got the Resistance, but there's also the Republic. And my understanding is kind of going into this that the Republic was basically like, the First Order's fine, don't worry about it. Don't get too stressed out about that. You guys are being crazy wingnuts. That Leia Organa lady, she's a little crazy, whatever. So I think we're going to see like some interesting political stuff. Maybe not quite as in-depth as we got with the prequels, but more in-depth than we got with the original trilogy.
I think it's a really good guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And best of all, I mean, that movie comes out December 15th, and there's a whole lot of questions we still have about it. So if nothing else, we'll be surprised, and then, we can start our whole hypothesis cycle for the next one.
Yeah.
So there's lots we don't know about Star Wars The Last Jedi, but we do know that it will have frog nuns in it. Yes, that's a true thing. Also, there's an evil BB-8 unit, and it's called BB-9E. It's very bad. We played with a toy of it last week. Check those videos out, too, and have a nice night. Or day, whatever, I don't care.